Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I am going to be ranking all 14 upcoming Star Wars projects from my least to my most excited. Once again, just like I said in my upcoming MCU project ranking video, the Disney Investor Day call took place a few weeks back, and we had a ton of new Star Wars stuff announced. And also, once again, on top of the plethora of other things we already knew were coming. So I have taken it upon myself to rank all 14 of them and give you all a bit more info on what's to come. So without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 14, Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Visions is said to be a series of anime shorts, and I'm gonna level with you. I am not a big fan of anime or anime, however you say it. I'm not really sure. I've heard it both ways, but regardless, I have tried plenty of anime throughout my lifetime. I have friends who love it. I have fellow YouTubers who love it. I've had plenty recommended to me, and I have tried them, but I've never really been a big fan of the art style. I know that there are millions out there who adore it, so I'm sure the series is gonna be right up your alley. Again, I'm sure lots of you out there will love it, but it really just isn't for me, and that's why it ends up down the bottom. Number 13, Star Wars: A Droid Story. So what I've been able to gather about this one is that it is going to be an animated film premiering on Disney+, starring a new droid of some sort who's going to be guided through his or her or their journey by R2-D2 and C-3PO. And to be honest, this is another project that, although I'll likely check out, just being a Star Wars fan, I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm sure it's gonna primarily be aimed at children, and I bet it'll be great for them and they'll probably love it. R2-D2 and C-3PO work best as side characters. Some of the episodes, even in the Clone Wars for instance, where they get a bit more spotlight, are some of the lesser episodes of the Clone Wars in my mind. So getting a whole film based on them, it doesn't really sit with me all that well. I just feel there's a lot more to explore in the Star Wars universe. I don't really see me loving it like any of the other Star Wars movies. Number 12, Rangers of the New Republic. This is another one that we have very little info on. There are some rumors, some speculation. All we know is that it's set in the same timeline as The Mandalorian. Most people seem to believe that it's going to be spinning off from Chapter 10 Passengers of The Mandalorian, or Episode 2 of Season 2. And most people seem to believe that this is the series that is going to star Gina Carano's Cara Dune. So this one just kind of ends up here by default. Just, we have very little info on it, so right now my excitement is kind of reserved. Number 11 is Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie. Again, this is another one that we know virtually nothing about. We know that it's being produced by Kevin Feige, as he is a longtime Star Wars fan, and he's brought Disney in quite a few big bucks. And it has recently been revealed that they have tapped the Loki series writer to be the writer for this film. And there were some rumors floating around that there was a big name actor that Feige was looking for to get the lead role. But aside from that, we don't really know anything, so we'll see. Of course, it's all rumors, it's all speculation right now. Only time will tell, but from what I'm seeing so far, there is enough there to get me excited. Number 10 is Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy. I really debated if I should put this one on the list at all, because aside from it being announced and then Johnson a couple years later saying that yeah, it's still happening, there really hasn't been any official news or confirmation for quite some time. But I will say this, if it is still happening, hear me out. The Last Jedi was the most divisive movie, arguably, of all time, and there are lots of people out there who hate it with every fiber of their being, and that's cool. Right? I'm not here to argue about that. Everyone has their own thoughts and opinions and feelings on Star Wars. That's cool. My point is, Rian Johnson is a great director and a great writer, and we all know that. Me personally, I love The Last Jedi. I think it's the only Star Wars movie that really strays quite a bit away from the regular Star Wars formula. But here's the thing, I feel that most people didn't like it because, he dealt with core Star Wars, and the changes that he made, people didn't agree with. They felt that it was off character from the original trilogy. They thought it didn't really sync up with what The Force Awakens was leading to, so on and so forth. The thing is, though, this trilogy is supposed to be Rian Johnson's own. It's supposed to be all new characters and all new story. It's supposed to be its own thing, written and directed by Rian Johnson, who we know, even the people who hate The Last Jedi, know that this guy is amazing at what he does. Look at Knives Out. Also, look at Looper, for instance. So we know this guy knows what he is doing when it comes to film. People just didn't like him dealing in core Star Wars, so the idea of him getting a trilogy to himself is actually really exciting to me. Number 9, The Bad Batch. This, of course, is a spin-off to the Clone Wars series following our favorite clones, the Bad Batch. Not a ton is really known about this series so far. We have gotten a little bit. I believe there is a trailer out there as well, but it's really just supposed to follow the Bad Batch after the events of Order 66, and then kind of trying to find their place in the world and a purpose for them, because of course they're clones. They were born and bred for warfare, to fight in the Clone Wars. Now that the Clone Wars are over and they're out on their own, they're really trying to search for a new purpose and a new reason for being, and they sort of act as mercenaries, I believe. So all that, being a fan of the Clone Wars, and I know lots of other people adore the Clone Wars out there, this is actually a very exciting series and one that I'm very much looking forward to. Number 8, Andor. This one only gets this spot because of how much I love Rogue One, and how much I love Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. So obviously it's not going to be a sequel series to Rogue One, but it's really supposed to chronicle the events leading up to Rogue One, because as we know, Cassian Andor has done some shit, has seen some shit, and, done some really nasty things for the rebellion that he constantly references during Rogue One. So I believe that although I'm sure it's not going to be some crazy R-rated underground Star Wars series, it's going to focus on the uglier side of the rebellion, and that's awesome. Not to mention, K2SO is coming back. Alan Tudyk was amazing as K2SO. All in all, if that's what this series ends up being, then I'm all for it. Number 7, The Book of Boba Fett. The most recently announced series on this list. I'm not sure if it's going to be a full-blown series or if it's going to be just a limited series, but again, Boba Fett is back. We found that out in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now he's back on his own adventures with Fennec Shand in his own part of the galaxy, and now we know that he is a badass. Well, we suspected it back then because he didn't get much time in the spotlight in the original trilogy, but Mandalorian Season 2, that showed that even though he has aged, it has not taken away from his abilities to kick ass whatsoever. Like many of the other things mentioned on this list so far, we virtually know nothing about what sort of adventures these two are going to go on together, but once again, we know that these two characters are amazing, so I am really excited to actually see what gets done with them. Number 6, Taika Waititi's Star Wars film. I'm just gonna be a broken record here. We don't know anything about this movie at all, but just the fact that Taika Waititi is going to direct this is more than enough to get me excited and earn it this spot on the list. We're talking about the guy who brought us the likes of Thor Ragnarok, Jojo Rabbit, and a plethora of other films like What We Do in the Shadows. He's hilarious, he knows what he's doing, and I find he really works best with these sort of galaxy films. For instance, Thor Ragnarok went way out of the norm from what we expected for Thor, and it ended up being top tier MCU, so I'm expecting this to be really weird and way out of the norm for Star Wars, but likely also will end up being top tier Star Wars. Number 5, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Director Patty Jenkins, best known for Monster and of course Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984, has finally come to the dark side, and by that I mean Disney, to direct a big action blockbuster film. Set in the Star Wars universe, no less. Yeah, again, we don't really know a lot about this one either. But what we did get is a little monologue short video clip of Patty Jenkins discussing her ties to fighter pilots, as her father was one and I believe died in combat. So she claims that she has searched all her life to find a film that she could do that could sort of do fighter pilots justice, and she has finally found that project, being Star Wars Rogue Squadron. What I want most from this is essentially Midway, but in the Star Wars universe using X-Wings and stuff. That just sounds so freaking cool to me. Number 4, The Acolyte. Hey, look at this! Another Star Wars project we know very, very little about. But what we do know is more than enough to really get the speculation running, get the blood pumping, and get us hyped for it. It is set at the end of the High Republic era, which, as we all know, is just before the prequel trilogy begins. And many have speculated that we might see a young Sheev Palpatine on his way to being the great emperor that we know and love, being trained by Darth Plagueis. Or Darth Plagueis, or however you say the name. So seeing a young Sheev Palpatine getting stronger with the Force and pulling from the dark side and becoming a Sith Lord is badass and extremely exciting. Number 3, The Mandalorian Season 3. Let's face it, The Mandalorian has been some of the best television in recent years, has possibly been the best Star Wars project since the original trilogy, and is just all around amazing for Star Wars fans and newcomers alike. What I'm most looking forward to this season is seeing where they take it next. I don't want to spoil Season 2's ending, but things, shit really hit the fan. Lots of big changes occurred at the end of that finale episode, so that's what really intrigues me. I'm more intrigued than anything. I'm curious to see where this show goes next and what's to come for it. Number 2 is Ahsoka. Yes, the young Padawan turned Jedi Master Ahsoka Tano finally saw her live-action debut in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. And she was played by the longtime fan cast Rosario Dawson, and she nailed it. It was everything that Star Wars fans had hoped for and so much more. We have virtually no details whatsoever aside from the fact that Rosario Dawson will be back, and Ahsoka is going to be her usual, wonderful, incredible, top-tier Star Wars character self. And number 1, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ewan McGregor is coming back to play Obi-Wan. He's taking on the robes once again, and it's going to take place somewhere in between the end of Revenge of the Sith and before A New Hope. So we're going to see a middle-aged Obi-Wan Kenobi doing some awesome Obi-Wan Kenobi shit. As it currently stands, this is only a mini-series set to be 6 to 8 episodes, but in all honesty, this has been something that was so sought after by Star Wars fans for over a decade, so the fact that it was finally announced, finally confirmed, it is happening, is more than enough to get all of us beyond hyped, and it definitely deserves this number 1 spot. The showrunner is Deborah Chow, and she is wonderful and fantastic at what she does. Oh, and Hayden Christensen is coming back to play Darth Vader. Boom. Mic drop. I cannot think of any other Star Wars project that I am more excited for than this one. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking. And feel free to let me know what you'd like to see ranked next. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. And that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.